Hello, everyone. It's Mr. English, and today's lesson is on molecules and compounds. So, where do we find molecules and compounds in our daily lives? The answer is all around you. The air that I'm breathing is made up of molecules of different gases. The water that I drink is made up of molecules of hydrogen and oxygen. The glass window behind me is made up of molecules of silica and other elements. The wooden table and chair that I'm sitting on are made up of wood is made up of molecules of different elements that is made by trees. So you can see that molecules are all around us, and chemists study what elements make up different objects in the universe. We're going to be taking notes in our science notebooks. So you'll want your science notebook, and as always, you can pause the screencast anytime you need more time on a slide. The way this works is you'll copy down the text that's in black font in this slideshow, and go ahead and title page C7, Atoms Make Up Molecules. When you're finished, your page C7 in your science notebook will look like this. So this is what you're writing down on page C7. Atoms make up molecules. The first is we're going to define chemical formulas. Chemical formulas are used to list how many of each type of atom are in a molecule. There is an exact way that chemists write chemical formulas, so that way we may understand one another. And if everyone follows the same format, it's like the rules for writing a sentence with correct punctuation. It needs to be followed so people know what one another are talking about, and you don't accidentally put in the wrong atom of a different type of element. So the first bullet point says if the element is represented on the periodic table by a single letter, the letter is always capitalized. For example, capital C indicates that this molecule has an atom of carbon. Capital O indicates that this molecule has an atom of oxygen. The two of these together make up a molecule of carbon monoxide. If I had written capital C lowercase o, I now have an atom of the element cobalt. Carbon monoxide, cobalt. Carbon monoxide is a gas that's given off by the exhaust of engines. Cobalt is a naturally occurring metal in the crust of the Earth. So you can see there's quite a big difference. The other difference is that these two letters together capitalized is a molecule, and this is an element. Hopefully that makes it a bit clearer. The next slide, we go into writing the chemical symbol of an element that has a capital letter and a lowercase letter. So you don't need to write notes on molecules continued, but these are the next two bullet points on page C7. It says if the element is represented on the periodic table by two letters, the first letter is capitalized and the second letter is always lowercase. For example, chlorine, cobalt, and iron all have chemical symbols that have a capital letter and then a lowercase letter. The element symbols are usually written in alphabetical order. For example, in this molecule of glucose, we have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and they are alphabetized. The C comes before the letter H in the English alphabet, and H comes before the letter O. I have this in italics because it's not always the case, but for the examples that we'll use over the next couple of weeks, there will only be a few that aren't in alphabetical order. But this is a rule that chemists try and follow when writing chemical formulas. This photo is a photo of my toothpaste box, and so I thought maybe to make things relevant for you students, you can see that compounds are all around us, especially in things like toothpaste and shampoo and household cleaning products. And so if you look at the labels of those, you can kind of see what's in the stuff that we use to brush our teeth and wash our hair and clean our houses. Potassium nitrate has a chemical formula of capital K for potassium, capital N for nitrogen, and O for oxygen, and is written capital KNO3. Sodium fluoride, which is used to strengthen the enamel of our teeth, is capital N, lowercase a, and then a capital F. So this is an example of where these are not in alphabetical order. Capital N is after F in the alphabet, but in this chemical formula, it's first. And So I wanted to show that, you can see what compounds are in the cleaning products and toothpaste, but it's also, if I wanted to find out, let's say I was a dentist or a chemist who worked for a toothpaste manufacturing company, and I wanted to find out what molecules made up the plaque on teeth, then I would do research on people's teeth and pull the plaque off of it and look at the chemical bonds that are between those molecules of plaque, and then design a toothpaste which breaks apart those bonds. All right. I know it's kind of gross to talk about plaque, but I'm just showing you some real life applications for writing chemical formulas and talking about molecules. The number in subscript it refers to those little numbers in a chemical formula, and that tells us how many of each atom of that element is in the molecule. It's super important. Water is something we drink. We get our hydrogen from water that makes up our body. It keeps all of our cells hydrated, and that way they can transport the oxygen that our body needs. And so the chemical formula for water is H2O. To contrast, to show you how important that number in subscript is, hydrogen peroxide's chemical formula is very similar, but it has a second atom of oxygen. So the chemical formula for hydrogen peroxide is H2O2, and obviously we don't drink that. So make sure you get your subscript numbers clearly written and you have the right number next to them. All right, so molecules come in two varieties. If the atoms are only one type of element, we call it a molecule. For example, gold. I can have a gold bar that exists purely of molecules of the element gold. However, if a molecule contains more than one type of atom from different elements, that type of molecule gets a special name, and that's called a compound. For example, the glucose molecule I showed you earlier, because it has three different types of atoms from different elements in it, it has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, this qualifies it as a compound, and so we have a special name for that to be very clear that compounds are molecules that contain atoms of more than one type of element. It's possible for a molecule to simply be one element. For example, we looked at ozone the other day, and that would be O3. And that qualifies as a molecule, but is not a compound. Why? Because it's all one element. So yes, this is a molecule, but no, it is not a compound. In order for it to be a compound, it would have to have two different elements at least. Okay, it could have more. All right, and I now have a compound. Hopefully that clarifies it a little bit for you. And if it doesn't, we have a reading that we're going to do as part of today's lesson, and they talk about how rocks, some of the elements that make up rocks, and those are definitely compounds. You're going to add all of the vocab that we've gone over today in today's PowerPoint or Google Slides presentation onto page C2 as well. Writing it more than once will definitely help to solidify it in your mind. A molecule is two or more atoms chemically bonded together. It could be from the same element. Chemical formulas are used to list how many of each type of atom are in a molecule. And compounds are molecules that contain atoms of more than one type of element. The page C2 for me is becoming pretty full. If you need to go into page C3, that's fine. That's what we set aside page C3 for. And the reading is going to be attached to today's Google Classroom post as a PDF, as well as it's listed for you here in the Screencastify. And what you're going to do is read through these 5 paragraphs about a trip out to the Channel Islands. I believe they go to Santa Cruz Channel Island, and Channel Islands are off the coast of California. It's a beautiful national park reserve where Native people have lived for millions of years, and it's got quite a bit of diversity in both the flora and fauna of the islands, and hopefully you get a chance to go out there someday. The reading talks about compounds that you'd find on your trip. So enjoy. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.